It's like trying to win a car race.
Should be a good one.
And as you're driving, saying, hey, make it run better.
You could have a posse of waifus.
Starting off kind of strangely.
Slaying the land.
Welcome to the show.
This is insanity.
Taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week.
This info is pretty shocking.
Somebody's got to give an answer to this.
This is Augmented Reality.
You are watching my favorite channel.
I've not heard of them.
The Triple S League. Enjoy, guys.
And we are back. Welcome, everybody, to the Augmented Reality Podcast for January 19th, 2022. Hope you're all having a great start to your new year. Hope you're all having a great time out there. Lots to talk about today, but we are back with the Augmented Reality Podcast. Again, our first show in a while, but we're bringing together myself and Subsidian and Moon to discuss all of the latest in gaming news, have some fun talking about it, and also do some deep dive and analysis, as we typically do. And, of course, there are cats in the background. I can hear the cats.
That was Commander.
There are always cats. So anyway, thank you all for joining us today. And we've decided to bring this back, at least for the time being. We know we've heard your feedback. We've been trying different things over the last little while. We have heard your feedback, and while the solo show was doing pretty good, it was missing a few components to it, especially since I started doing it pre-recorded instead of live. And it just was missing the interactions between the team. Plus, doing it live, we need the interaction, between us and the chat. It's really part of what makes this show what it is. And so we're bringing this back for the time being. We always have complications with Cyber Moon's work schedules, but for the time being, we'll be here at this time on Wednesdays. So, and for some of you, maybe it's Tuesday already. I don't know. But or Tuesday already? Did I say that? Thursday already. So, lots to talk about today. So yesterday we did a long live stream over on the Triple S League channel. We talked. Of course, the big news is the acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft, which the deal has just been announced. It's going to take a long time to finalize and finish that up. For all of the rubber stamps and red tape to be dealt with. So it's going to be up to 18 months before this thing is finalized. But there's still a lot to talk about in the meantime, and I think it's something we're going to be talking about for quite a while. But there's a few big questions on people's minds that we're going to discuss today. What's going on with Bobby Kotick? Is he in or is he out? What's the story there? Is the buyout good for Blizzard employees, and is it going to be good for gamers? Like, what's the overall fallout from this going to be? Is Microsoft becoming too powerful of a behemoth? We'll talk about that. And this is what we're going to talk about. You're not supposed to be answering yet, Saib. Anyway, yes, as you can see, the Cuphead Show, where we're going to react to the Cuphead Show trailer. There's not going to be any spoilers, Funky, so don't worry about that. The show's not out yet, first of all, so we have not seen it. We've seen the trailers. We're just going to touch on that, plus some more NFT insanity. But anyway, Cyber Moon, how you doing today?
Good. I mean, it's a refreshing day because Bobby Kotick is out, and we're happy about this. I'm happy about this. I think this is a good thing. I don't think that having a person with that amount of ego and inability to do what's right at the helm of anything, I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think, as I just posted on Twitter, the guy employs almost more ex-CIA and NSA people than almost any other employer in the United States. That's pretty scary when you think about it. I don't think a person like that is good for that position. I don't think a person like that should have their hands anywhere near video games or video gamers, or developers, or anybody really.
You're going to get us in trouble posting stuff like that.
I know.
Yeah. By the way, Lexa Oldashi, watching from Greece where it is 10 p.m. and has to wake up at 5. Well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate that. And I don't recognize your username, so welcome to the show if you're brand new. And by the way, if anyone else is new here, perhaps you just discovered us from our live stream yesterday or just came across us for whatever reason please do hit that subscribe button. Here on the Triple S Podcast channel, you'll get this show, plus you'll get Maximum News on Saturdays with Max Darrett and Obsidian. We also have another channel, the Triple S League, where we have all kinds of other gaming content, guides, comedy, reviews, that kind of thing. Anyway, yeah, so we weren't sure. Yes, actually, up until very recently here, we weren't certain about the status of Bobby Kotick in all of this kerfluffle. I mean, a quick recap. Microsoft announced it's going to buy Activision Blizzard for close to $70 billion. Some outlets are reporting it at $75 billion. So the exact amount, I guess, is a little bit uncertain here. But at any rate, Bobby is going to be remaining the CEO of Activision Blizzard, at least until the acquisition is complete. But sources are now telling the Wall Street Journal, multiple company sources. So this is, I mean, it's the, sources say things. So obviously some level of grain of salt needs to be taken there. But multiple sources apparently are saying that Bobby's going to be stepping down or out, or is otherwise not going to be the CEO anymore as of Microsoft completing its acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Meanwhile, Xbox boss Phil Spencer has been promoted to CEO of Xbox Gaming, and all of Activision Blizzard is going to report directly to him after the acquisition. The acquisition's not going to be completed until sometime in fiscal year 2023, just because they have to dot all the I's, cross all the T's. All the government need to make sure that it's all legal and everything. So this is just really, as we discussed yesterday, really interesting timing, just because of all of the scandals that Activision Blizzard have been embroiled in. We're not going to rehash all of that because we've discussed it ad nauseum. But really, really interesting timing. But something interesting that has come out today in, Bobby and Phil have been doing interviews all over the place. Mm-hmm. And Phil Spencer said that they started talking about this. The idea came to them late in the year. So presumably that means...
Yes, I have info on that too.
Okay, well, I'm curious to hear what you have to say. So,
I guess we'll hit these things kind of as we approach them. So it'll be a little bit, it'll be a little scattered, but we're going to try to hit this because there's an enormous number of moving parts and there's an enormous number of things going on. So the interviews yesterday also confirmed indirectly and very subtly that Bobby is now looking for a new job.
Okay.
And we know this because of the number of times he mentioned the metaverse in every interview they did yesterday.
It was ridiculous.
The metaverse and 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 in the future of the metaverse and the future of the metaverse and the metaverse and the metaverse. He said metaverse. I think in one interview he said it like 21 times.
He was insane how many times he was saying the word metaverse.
So he's clearly pitching to become the CEO of some gaming division under a one Mr. Facebook reptile. But that is or is he an android? I can never tell. But yeah, that's the thing, right? So he, again, that's not proof positive. I'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah, but metaverse is more general than just the Facebook thing.
But it is something that he is touting. I think Phil only said it like maybe once or twice to Bobby Kotick's like 20 or 30 times. And it's pretty heavy. Where do I fit this in? In him leaving, we already know that he's being forced to shell out his shares at a not at the top end rate, but at a mid-range rate. So he's not getting a $290 some odd billion bonus. He is in fact losing that bonus, and he's being forced to sell all of his shares at under the purchase value, shelling out. So he's going to make about just over $300 million, but he's not getting a cut of the end sale. So this is how we know that he's out. This is this is the clincher here, because he hasn't been given a massive golden parachute in the form of like somebody who, if they weren't embroiled in this scandal and if they had just sold the company off at a great deal, they probably, like, selling a $70 billion franchise, you would probably walk away. First of all, it would sell for probably about $140 billion, and he would probably walk away with at least 10% of that. So he'd be walking away with $14 billion at the very least. That, like, if he was in a perfect position, you know, all powerful on the board, negotiated the deal himself, yeah, he'd be walking away with basically 10%, and that would be that'd be 14 billion out of the 140 billion. But that didn't happen. Instead, he's being forced to liquidate his shares at a below market price, netting him only, and this is sad, only the 300 million. So, of course, he's still rich, but he has definitely lost his entire power over everything. Apparently, he didn't want the sale to go through. There are many sources that are now kind of like speaking out of this. There's tons of them, from Bloomberg to the Washington Journal, Washington Journal, where basically he's like, it's confirmed that he was trying to find a different buyer. He was trying to hold out. He was trying to up the price, and basically the board was like, "No, we're done. We're done. Be glad that you're not being forced to resign in disgrace." So he gets a pay cut, but it's not the biggest pay cut that he could have gotten. So that is,
he's raking in only $300 million.
Yeah, but considering the fact that if he had been as powerful as he was, 2 years ago, or if he had been as powerful as he is as a person who employs some of the largest numbers of ex-NSA and CIA officers in the world, and if he is as well connected as one little black book suggests that he is, you would have expected him to walk away with, well, billions, and to be, hailed it as some kind of, next generation thinker. Instead, on the news yesterday, the slimy news, these absolute pathetic people who, before this all started, there was an interview where, again, if you had hired an investigator to investigate Bobby Kotick and the company and Blizzard Activision, you would have discovered fairly easily that they were being sued massively. And these business corporation news sites didn't do that. Instead, they had this interview with him. This was like 4 or 5 days before this news broke. And they were talking to him, and he was like, they were talking to him on a golf course, and he was just sitting there, like, "Oh yes, Blizzard's the greatest company to invest in, and you should invest in it because our future is looking good." And this was 5 days. I wish I could find that article or that interview. It's a live video. It was live, done on TV. It was hilarious because of what happened, now a year later. Like it's like your mind is blown. Their stock fell almost 50%. They've lost all these massive movements. They've lost a lot of their core staff. It's been an absolute nightmare. And then they're forced to sell out at 45% above the stock price of it being in its lowest dip. So that's a good sign. That's like a really good sign. And yeah, so he's getting the boot. So this is a good thing. Yeah. So yes, he is most certainly out, because if he wasn't, he wouldn't be talking like this. He wouldn't have been forced to cash out his shares. He wouldn't be forced to do all this other stuff that we now see is what he's doing. And the funniest thing of all of this is that he's basically, from this point forward, he's essentially working for free. Because remember how he took that, I'm going to take a pay cut down to the minimum amount a CEO could be paid in California, which is still way more money than we'll ever see in a year. But yeah, that's well, hopefully not. But yeah, it's like that's so yeah. He is now being paid like $60,000 a year to oversee this. Oh, I bet he's. I know he's probably furious underneath it all. Like yes, he's going to be able to put this on his resume, and he's probably going to get a fancy schmoozy CEO job somewhere else. But I think the days of him being a pillar in gaming is done, and I can't be happier. So yeah,
I have to think that Microsoft knew. They seem smart enough to know that if they had kept him on in any capacity, that people, the gaming community in general, like that would have just been a bad move. That would have been bad PR. There would have been a lot of backlash for that.
Yeah.
I mean, So one of the big questions that we had yesterday was, did the discussions for this happen before or after all of the scandals broke about sorry, I almost said Bethesda, I mean, they did buy Bethesda, but it was under very different circumstances. Before all the scandals broke about Activision Blizzard and before the state of California took them to court, et cetera, et cetera. And it's looking now like it was after. So, yeah. So like it looks like that was that's fairly certain now, based on what Phil Spencer said when he said late in the year. So even if we assume that means the second half of the year.
Sources are quoting this or talking about this, quoting those sources that are being reported in mainstream press, is that the deal was basically set up in November. That's when things hit the absolute zenith. That's where they were looking at, like, honestly, again, trying to be as forward as even thinking as I can on this. I suspect strongly that was where everything was kind of hitting the absolute worst of it. And if you were being as honest as I can, I would say that Blizzard probably had about 4 years of intense difficulty ahead of them. And they were probably never going to get back up anywhere near 100 stock price. They were probably going to... So the next expansion for WoW would have been delayed probably one or two more times. Still probably will be. The overall lineup of games that they had would have continued to suffer. They probably would have had to have rebooted one of their future games. So either Overwatch 2 or Diablo. They probably would have had to have put another major delay on that for another year, just while they trained staff, like, to replace the ones that they were hemorrhaging like crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
And their reputational damage would have been absolutely decimated. There's a good chance that they would have had to have doubled down on their... Again, I don't want to be insulting, but they're mindless games. You know, the Candy Crush. I'm not saying that you're mindless when you play it. I'm just saying that it's it's toilet bowl.
Yeah, I think you're digging that hole a little deeper.
Okay, well, I mean, again, I'm not insulting. It's just it's not real. It's not a game in the normal sense of the term, right? Like
it's
not
a
console
low
game.
focus kind of casual game that pretty much anybody can pick up, basically.
Yes, exactly.
It's very simple.
That makes them enormous amounts of money for very little, like, new content. Like, if you didn't add anything new to Candy Crush for a year, you just kept the same events going on and the same content going on and just kept on recycling everything. In all honesty, that game would probably run almost indefinitely as far as humans existed. Like legitimately. It probably, like,
oh, sure,
there's a good chance that in 1,000 years, when people were playing these games in a deep dive, like, psychedelic experience in the Andromeda galaxy, that somebody be like, hey, you should try Candy Crush. It's really fun. Oh, what's candy? Oh, it's this ancient thing that our ancestors used to eat. But apparently you crushed these candies and then you consume them through a visual medium.
I'll try it later. Right now I'm playing Skyrim on my abacus.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So
Blizzard was in a bad state. Lots of willingness to sell at this point, I think.
Yes.
Is what you're getting at. Yeah.
Yeah. So the board of directors, the stockholders, have been absolutely furious. There's a group of stockholders that are suing Bobby because he knew about this and he didn't report it to the board. The board barely defended him. It was basically like it was an even split. From what I heard, it was an even split on the board. Them wanting to can him, them not wanting to can him. They were kind of at an impasse. And I suspect things would have continued to get worse. But when Bobby said, okay, well, this Microsoft guy wants to talk, or maybe it was some of the board members who were approached first, and they're like, well, I'm going to bring in Phil, and Phil's going to pitch us on selling to him. And he's going to offer us basically where we were before all this stuff happened, before you started to drop the ball on everything. He's going to pick everything up. We're all going to get a huge cut. Apparently, all of the board members are going to be making way more money than Bobby is on this deal. So, yeah, I think we can say that it was something that happened quickly. Bobby desperately tried to find different bidders. He was calling up a whole bunch of people in the industry, wanting to know if they wanted to buy him out, but the board voted yes, and he was out. Or, I mean, his control is out now, essentially.
Okay. So what about, let's look at this from Microsoft's perspective then for a quick sec. So sometime around November, they're taking a look at the gaming landscape, and they're like, hey, what's that dumpster fire on the horizon? I'm going to bring up this image just because it's more relevant to what we're directly talking about. But like, oh, look at that burning ship on the horizon. It's like it's like a Niv specialty, if you're familiar with our community member Niv on our Discord server and his antics in that pirate game, Sea of Thieves. So so this ship is like, everyone's abandoning ship. It's burning. It's gonna sink. Let's buy that shit. Like, why would they do that? Is it because somewhere deep in the cargo hold they know there's a fireproof?
Did you say you were pulling up a picture?
Oh, just a picture of the Xbox Activision Blizzard graphic. Never mind, it's not important.
Oh, okay.
I had the Bobby Kotick article up, and it just wasn't any. So anyway, is it because they knew that in the cargo hold of this burning ship was a fireproof box that contained all of these IPs that they could take and turn into a gold mine if they do something good with it? Do you think that was what Microsoft was thinking? Like, yeah, that this is a dumpster fire, we're going to turn it around? Or this is the time to buy because we can get Blizzard for a lot cheaper than we otherwise would?
I think it was this was the time to buy.
Yeah.
Because something that I discounted yesterday is the fact that they were buying at such a high price range, but it had slipped my mind that, technically speaking, if the stock price was at, if it had bounced up to 90, they would have had to buy it out at like 150%. Or sorry, at 150. They would have had to have bought it out for way more than what it was. So actually, this was quite a steal. Like, logistically speaking, this was a really good deal for Microsoft. Like, a really, really good deal.
Right.
So yeah, I think they went after this because it was cheap, because it increases their overall thing. If they can have Diablo come out and have it do really, really well, and have it be, much polished and increase, like, the technology in it, offer like more stuff, then I think that realistically that's a huge competitor for Amazon's Lost Ark here, that's coming out in just a few days, which apparently is amazing. I keep hearing this from people. It's really good. So, all right. So if it's really good, then Xbox is going to want to offer something that counters that at some point in the future. And Diablo is the best thing to counter it with, as long as you make an actual game.
A good game, yeah.
Yeah.
No phones and abacuses to play it on.
And then if you throw in Overwatch, you make Overwatch really amazing, and Overwatch 2 really amazing, and you can resurrect that at the height that it has the potential for, then they can compete with, like, Fortnite. So, in the younger youth kind of category. So yeah, it makes sense logistically and as far as like expansion goes. So yeah. It's probably a good idea.
Blunt Man in the chat. One word: franchises. Yeah, exactly. They own, like, despite these brands have sticking power for sure. Despite all of the controversy about the company that made them recently, these brands have sticking power for sure. And then Funky points out IP, cheap labor, and infrastructure. I mean, I would hope that they bring, if as they acquire Blizzard, that they bring.
Microsoft. I'm going to say this for sure. Everybody at Activision Blizzard, all the grunts are going to get a big pay raise with this move.
God, I would hope so. I mean, there would be
Microsoft.
There would be hell to
Microsoft
pay
does
if
not.
they didn't.
Yeah, Microsoft is not known for its poor pay. Now they do, of course, they're a corporation and they love to kind of stick it to the people that they can. And they have had issues with QA and bug testing and stuff like that, companies like that before, or contractors, subcontractors like that before. There's a pretty mean story about a group of testers that unionized, and then basically Microsoft just dismissed them all and their department. So that's how they got rid of that. So again, not great, right? Not what we want to see, not what we're happy to see happen, but they are also not known to have their developers working on their primary products having to drink coffee as a diet suppressant and sleeping 8 to 10 people per apartment just so that they can afford living in a generalized area that they're working in.
So that they can live the dream of working for Blizzard.
Yeah, so they can live the dream. Microsoft's not known typically for that kind of stuff. And again, I've often said that it was extremely foolish of them to do this to begin with. Like Bobby was setting himself up for failure down the road by having people, by paying people that little. Because you get what you pay for, Bobby. You get what you pay for. When you're paying people crap, guess what they make? Like, shocker. When you started to do that, when you started to undercut people, turns out that fast forward, a couple of years down the road, when these people are in charge of stuff, making stuff, they don't make good stuff. Like the
ones that are worth their salt move on to other things, or they start their own studio. When they see that as a better option than working for you, and when there's so many people doing that, I mean, that's a bad sign. But yeah, you've got to have your employees invested in the company, in terms of their, they've got. You want to motivate your employees. Don't treat them like crap. Like you want them to deliver really well. Yeah, you can't have them be overworked, underpaid, and feel like the company doesn't care about them. They're not going to make good stuff under those circumstances.
And this is not something that you can avoid. You cannot avoid this. You cannot avoid this. It doesn't work. It's called the Pareto distribution. It's a fact of nature. Like, again, some people don't like the Pareto distribution. They think that, they can forcibly change it. It affects everything from stars to grasshoppers, okay? Like, I hate to say it, but you're a fool to think you can counteract nature. And it just doesn't, yes, we can try. We're above nature. We can set up things that help people in different ways. We can install as many ladders in as possible, but you cannot treat your entire, the best people at your working under you like garbage and expect them to stay. Because when a famine hits that top 20% who makes 80% of the stuff that you need, they all leave because they're smarter, faster, and better at transitioning than everybody else. And when a bad thing happens, Moon, you and I experienced this just recently. Actually, we've experienced this multiple times. We've worked for companies that are really bad at what they do, that don't know what they're doing, and what happens? The top 20% of the company leave.
Yep.
And that is a normal reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And when things are bad at a company, the top 20% immediately start looking for the exit door. And when that happens, you're pooched. Sorry, but you as a company, you're going to lose your top 20% again, who do 80% of your work. And those people, when they leave, when they walk out that door, that's it. You're done. And you might be $1 billion company. That just means you sink faster than all the others. So again,
it's like, when are they going to do? Go work somewhere else? Well, yeah. What are you going to do? Play some other company's games? Yeah. Yeah. That's what we're gonna do. Oh wait, you're really gonna do that? Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. All right, well, we've got some other topics we're gonna move on to here, so I'm gonna read the mid-roll, and then we'll get into a couple other topics. Moon, if you want to pick some of the chat messages to read when I'm done saying this. But basically, you are listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast, and we're glad you're here and part of the conversation. We love seeing everybody so active in the live chat. Please do slam that like button. It likes it rough. And also the subscribe button so you can catch this show plus Maximum News. So 2 weekly shows we have here on this channel. Plus check out our Discord server. You can find the link in the description below. You can also find a link to our other channel, the Triple S League, which has all kinds of other content on it that we do. All gaming content, but a variety of different types of gaming content over there. So it's more community and informative content over there, and news content over here on this channel. So we hope you subscribe in both places. And also check out the Discord server. Like I said, it's a great community there where we keep it, we keep it on task, as in, it's about the fandom. It's about talking about the stuff that we like. Great non-toxic community. We have great mods, keeping everything on the level. Really appreciate them. So shout out to the mods on the Discord server. If any of you are listening, we really appreciate the work you do over there. All right. So,
all right.
Yeah.
We got a comment from Arturo in the chat who's like, who wants mobile games? I ask you all who. Actually, I play a lot of mobile games. I've been getting into it lately because it's casual, low-key, it's fun, especially if they don't build it in a way where they create a problem that they have the solution for, but you have to buy it. I was just having this conversation with Trauma where I was just like, there's some mobile games that I really enjoy. Even right now, Sai is playing this mecha game, and he's been having a lot of fun with that. And I've been playing some puzzle games and a fashion game, and there's this other one where they had kind of a Candy Crush sort of setup to earn points to spend to progress in the thing, but it got to a point where it was too hard to pass, and you're 2 moves short of completing it. They're uh-oh, you have to buy more moves or just try again. So I was just screw it, I'm deleting you, you're not worth it. So it's there's a certain appeal to mobile games. I'll give it that.
Yeah, they can be a great little. I don't like saying a time waster, but a great little rest activity, a great little bit of recreation. I enjoy a good puzzle game on my phone. It's a different thing. It's a different. It doesn't replace my, my core gaming hobby, but it's But yeah,
sometimes I don't have the energy to get into a really intense RPG or base management game. Sometimes I just want to merge things together.
Yeah, and I love puzzle games. I really do. But yeah, it is a lot of the crap they put into just when there's ads literally ads between every level. That's screw this crap.
I'm definitely less likely to play that if that's happening.
Yeah. Okay. You had some more to read there?
And then Funky says, these franchises were losing power, yes, but now with this acquisition, it kind of resets the counter. Old fans who are leaving may just wait and see instead of not even being interested. Mm-hmm. And he says he's even considering taking an interest in WoW again.
I think it may be a reset point for the people who boycotted, but I think just with the... we're still waiting to see the outcome of Microsoft buying Bethesda, like I mentioned yesterday. We're still waiting to see the long-term impact of that. Bethesda's released a few games, but they were games that were heavily in production long before Microsoft bought them. I think Starfield's going to be the real canary in the coal mine, so to speak, as far as...
Well, even then, they did most of the work on that game before the buyout. So
Right.
so I think what we'll have to wait and see. I think the real test will be the next Elder Scrolls game.
Mhm.
maybe
be
the
where-
next thing from Obsidian too, because
Yeah.
Outer Worlds was largely completed prior to their buyout from Microsoft.
Actually, that's a good point too.
Um,
I'm still crossing my fingers. I still hope to God that they cancel whatever project they were working on and they switched immediately as soon as the buyout happened as soon as the Bethesda buyout happened, that they switched to doing a new Fallout game. It's just that would be just so good. But I don't know, that may not necessarily happen.
mhm.
Also, CEOs are a lot like butts, you know. I just realized this. It's like every CEO of a game company that I know of, like, and have like seen a significant enough from to be able to gauge an opinion on, they're all really terrible. I mean, they all really are really terrible. But it's like you kind of have to have one. So,
You need one, even though all they do is spew shit. Okay. So, speaking of CEOs, let's talk about Phil Spencer for another minute here. So, this is related to the Xbox or the Microsoft buying Blizzard story, but this is a different issue that has been highlighted by a couple of people on our Discord server, especially Funky, very, very, very interested in having us talk about this. So, Phil Spencer did an interview it was reported on just over a week ago that he did an interview with the New York Times. I tried to access the actual article that has a transcript of the interview, but I've reached my limit of free articles, so no chance there. But anyway, here from PC Gamer.
That's a terrible title. Just saying.
Phil Spencer on dealing with harassment and bad actors. We're not a free speech platform. So let's put this into a little bit of context. So there were a bunch of things talked about, but two of them that we should probably keep an eye on are the idea of Microsoft, of them not being a free speech platform. Now he's specifically talking about their gaming platforms, but then also this idea that Phil has this idea that when you ban somebody for bad behavior in a game, it should follow them to other platforms. And that, I think, is something that we should be very concerned about, and we should let him know that, our opinions on, assuming you...
Yeah.
If you... Either way, let him know your opinion on it, but especially if you agree with me that is a very scary, bad idea. That's like saying, if you behave badly in a restaurant, they put you on some central list of restaurants, so you can't go to a restaurant ever again. Any restaurant. This is one of the big questions of the day, right? It's like, well, how, like, so in practice, in theory, this is a great idea, right? In theory, in a perfect world, it's like, hey, you've got some guy who shows up in your game room and starts blasting, ear-splitting, screaming sounds that he's mixed. I mean, we've had this happen to us live once before by a caller. Somebody like that who does that, it'd be nice to like just permanently ban them from like everything, right? Like, sorry, you can't listen to us. You can't listen to any other podcast. You can't, because you did something that was just rude. Like, taking this to the restaurant example. You have somebody walk in, take a dump in the middle of the floor where, and there's like 30 people trying to eat their food and it's sickening and they, a bunch of people hurl and that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, that person doesn't get to go into any restaurants. Now, of course, that's again, probably a crime.
Perfect world. You're thinking about this, right? And you're like, yeah, that makes sense. The problem is immediately when you try to like put any of this stuff into actual action. So the first problem is that who makes those decisions? Who makes that call?
Who makes the rules about what's inappropriate behavior? Is it?
And
You were.
and how is that going to change from week to week to month? Is it going to be totally fine to come in and say, I don't like this game, it's kind of boring, I think the devs aren't doing a good job in keeping this updated? Does that become this bannable offense where now you're out against you're
some
out
mod
on
who's
your
having a bad day just decides to put you on the list, and now you're
and now every game you're playing is immediately banned, and you can't get back into it. You're trying to prove it. Worse yet, what happens when one of these moderators suddenly decides to do it for some other reason other than their job? Like, this guy, I don't like this guy, I'm just going to get rid of him. What if you're just playing your game one day, and a guy shows up at your door and goes, "Hi, I'm a moderator for this company, and I've just banned you from everything. Oh yeah, and this ban is also going to be retroactive to your bank accounts and your mortgage and all this other stuff. Now, if you pay me 10 grand, I can make all this go away." And again, it's like, you laugh at that, but that's a problem that they've actually had to deal with in places that have tried similar things in the past. There's a lot of allegations that this happens quite frequently in China right now with their social credit program. There's certain people who show up and say, "Oh, hey, we can make your life a living, hellhole. And if you just pay us, then this will all go away. And we know that you can because we just checked your bank accounts because we have the power to do that." So again, in practice, this all falls apart. But you look at it from their side, and again, from their side, it makes sense, right? It makes sense from their side. You want to make games. You don't want a political rally happening to support. Let me make something up here.
Anybody. Like, okay, some bad politician.
No. I mean, like something extreme, right? Like, and this is the point that Phil is raising about free speech. Say there's a group that wants to euthanize all dogs, and they have 25 members in the entire world, and they're getting together to euthanize all dogs, and they want to use your platform as a place to hold a political rally to euthanize all dogs. That's pretty insane. You don't want that happening because it has nothing to do with your game about race cars. Like, it's a car. Why? No, we don't want you to have a route. No, that's not something that they want. But what ends up happening here is that, and this was raised, the same question was raised recently on another show. I think it was, I think Asmongold and Bellular talked about this. It's like, what happens when you don't have the commons anymore where you can discuss these things, and all of the commons have moved online and have been separated piecemeal up into corporations. And then all the corporations say, "No, we don't want to respect your or anybody else's ability for free speech." It's that is a big question when you have all of the online communities owned by somebody who has their own terms of service and their own rules, and they're all private corporations. I mean, I think there is a broader societal issue to address there. And for people who think that this isn't a problem, it is. For a lot of people, we have a friend who doesn't believe in free speech at all, even though they live in a world completely derived by free speech. So yes, I get it. You don't like crazy people talking about crazy ideas. But here's the thing. Every single thing you do today is derived of almost everything that you do today is derived from crazy concepts that a bunch of free speech people came up with whilst talking in the commons. Everything from the ability to read books, the ability to have an education.
Yeah, let the common people get educated. Or there was a time when abolishing slavery was a crazy idea to a lot of people.
Yeah, that to a lot of people about 2,000 years ago, that concept was absolutely ludicrous.
They've been like, "You're nuts. How is our economy going to function?" Well, we'll find a way. But they would have thought it was crazy. That's what I'm saying.
The phone network the thing that you're using to listen to us right now, the basis for the phone network. If you want to read a harrowing story about inventing, creating, and pushing boundaries, just read about Alexander Graham Bell. Read about what he went through, what he did, the things that he did that some people today would still think is illegal. The guy dug up corpses, for example. To be able to understand how the human ear functioned, he had to dig up fresh bodies and take them apart
Okay.
in order to
We're
understand
getting,
the concept. I know
getting
you
way
think this
off
is.
into the reeds.
I know, but this is not hyperbole.
No, it's not.
Everything that you have is responsible for people who push those boundaries in the past.
Yeah.
Everything from medicine to science to everything, you can roll up at some point. Somebody was talking about it in a place of commons or a place of free speech and was like, we need to do this. And a bunch of people looked at it and said, you're crazy.
Of course.
So you have to separate that from the ludicrous things. And unfortunately, you can't work like that's not an instantly solvable problem. But in when you take it apart and when you're looking at it from a business perspective, and the business people are like, well, hey, we don't want you to hold political rallies here because that's not our job. That's not what we set out to do. And in that, you can nod your head and say, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense from their perspective.
I'll read this in a minute here from this Phil's actual statement on. But Moon, you sounded like you had a.
I was just gonna say that is like if you just shut down conversation because you don't like the opinion or point that's being made, how do you sort it out, right? How do you really know if it's a bad idea or not, or how do you know if it just needs to be dissected more, or like gauge a proper response to it if you just don't talk about it?
Yes. By the way, hey, Titan Tracks in the chat. Glad to see you're listening. So,
welcome.
So Phil says one of the things we've stated about our social network is that we're not a free speech platform or a platform around interactive entertainment and video games, and we're not there to allow all kinds of social discourse to happen on our platform. That is not why we exist. And he has, I mean, I think he has a point there. It's the same thing on our Discord server. It's we have we have controls on what we allow people to talk about, not in the interest of suppressing people's ideas, but in the interest of keeping the community. The community has a purpose, and if that purpose gets derailed, that harms the community. And we did put an off-topic area because some of our community members do want to talk about those things. So we're like, okay, here's a space you can do that. But we didn't have that for a while. So the argument he's making is sound here. I think the broader question becomes, what if all corporations are saying this, we're not a free speech platform, then where do we go online to discuss, controversial ideas? But
IX in the chat comments, does that go both directions though?
In what sense? I just a little. Could you clarify your question a little more, IX? I'm not sure what you mean by that, or what you're referring to. Like if you're referring to the Discord server or to.
It also reminds me of the earlier comment from Funky where he said, "Who surveils the surveillors?"
Right.
Well, that's the big problem with trying to have centralized control like this, and that's why we're going to get into talking about Phil's statement about having your game bans follow you from platform to platform. Obviously there's a lot of problems, as we've already touched on these a little bit. There's big logistical problems with that. And I mean, and one that has sort of been mentioned by a couple of people in the chat, but not in these words, is that, you're guilty until proven innocent. You get banned, you have to appeal. And you have to prove that you were innocent, basically, which is, if it's like you got banned from one game by mistake, that's a small problem. You got banned from all of gaming by mistake, that's a big problem, and that's incredibly unfair to a person. Or, I mean, what about, as we had someone, Bluntman, I think, in the chat saying, when I was a kid, I did all these things. I used cheats. Bluntman says, I was pretty dumb at school. I used cheats in online games. I quickly realized this was a bad idea, but just imagine that I would be banned permanently everywhere for this. Yeah, exactly. That, like, where's then the opportunity for a person to grow and change and be redeemed? I mean, maybe you're banned from the game you were playing because you engaged in bad behavior, but you can move on to a different game having grown as a person and contribute positively to that community. Well, if you're cut off, if you're perma-banned from everywhere, well, you got no opportunity to do that. That's the problem I have with a lot of this sort of extreme progressive cult of, wanting to just destroy people who you don't agree with. There's no path to redemption.
Yeah, and I was also going to bring up user reporting, but Funky also brings up a counterpoint to that, because like there's this one game website that we go to sometimes where you can thumbs up or thumbs down if you like playing with a user. But Funky says in some games, some guild mass report their opponent and get them banned, so it's a misuse of user reporting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we have, like, that's the enormous issue with this, because even if you, like, it's like, well, maybe all laws should be distributed instead of by judges, by an AI who looks at the thing and says you ran this red light and you were drunk, therefore you get the full weight of this punishment put down upon you for running into and killing somebody. It's like, yeah, you could say, okay, that makes sense. It's a system. We have all set up these laws ahead of time, and this all seems to work. But what happens when the system can't trust itself because of the way that people can learn to abuse it? It's like, yeah, you could do a lot of problems with that too. Plus, like, which is again why we typically have judges who can, like, interpret certain rules. And I think that's obviously a big issue here. Mm-hmm. So it's like there's a huge problem in this space with him saying this, and he's starting out from kind of like this concept that we agree with. Well, and that's like, Microsoft's not the public commons, but what happens when Microsoft plus Facebook plus Twitter plus YouTube plus every other social media company does equal the commons, and there's no more commons anymore? What happens then?
And I don't think it's Microsoft's job to necessarily solve that, but the problem does have to be solved somehow.
So it is. This is a huge problem, and we have to figure out. We have to figure out at some point. Humanity is going to have to figure this stuff out, because if we don't, we're in trouble.
Yeah,
it's like we're already. I think we're already past the point where this has had to have been done. And we're clearly nowhere even near what needs to be done, moving forward even more. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we about cover it. I just wanted to... Oh, this comment from IX. Should you lose access to your online purchased content if you get banned? I mean, yeah, is that the next step then? Is that the next step?
Well,
so why not?
And again, actually, this is a good point. We'll use this example because we've used it in the past. PUBG suffers from a lot of cheaters. Who are the cheaters? Like, who is cheating like nonstop in these games? And the answer to that is that in China, because you can't play games that much, and if you do, you get in trouble. So what happens is people go out and they have a video game marathon weekend. They go to a cafe where the cafe owners have set up a computer with a VPN and with a brand new spanking copy account, all this stuff, all of the cheats, all of this stuff, everything's installed, ready to go. And the guy hops in and he just starts to cheat and play and get those victories, and he's getting like every chicken dinner there is, and then his account gets banned, and he goes to the front and goes, yeah, I got banned. The guy hands him a bunch of new codes. He goes to the back, he puts them all in, and boom, he continues to cheat and cheat and cheat and cheat. And each time he gets banned, he just goes back, spends another $60 because, or $20. What's $20 to like? I know more people who spend more on drinks in a night than these guys will spend a whole weekend playing these video games and cheating nonstop. So in that case, what you have is you have an institution that is created, which is very funny because this has happened before, especially in like, Middle Ages times, where you have a corporation that's handing you the ability to basically buy, what's it called? When you buy the ability to sin, or what was that called? What was the
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the word, but let's not get
into
that right now.
There's a particular word for it, but there used to be an organization that would say, and it wasn't just an organization. It used to be a king too. Like, hey, king, I want to go commit what is equivalent to a felony. Well, that's going to be 15 gold pieces to the crown, and as long as you don't commit murder whilst committing the penalty, the felony, then it's fine. I have given you the approval to do so. And then you go and you commit the felony, and then you come back and you're like, okay, here's the crime that I committed. Here's your tip. And again, it's like, that's a huge problem.
That is a huge problem. I thought you were talking about something completely different, but anyway, yeah. So that.
Well, the F word. So as far as I know, and again, I don't think this has been 100% proven either way, but the F word the F words, as I understand it, means the translation was fornicating under consent of the king. And basically you went to the king, you said, hey, I want to fornicate. And he was like, well, that's very bad. You can't do that. But if I gave you lots of money, could I do that? Oh, well, if you gave me lots of money, then I could okay it for a weekend. Yes, a weekend would be okay. Well, starting from sundown on this day to sundown on that day, put this plaque up. And the plaque was the F word, and it was an acronym for fornicating under consent of the king. There you go. And there were times where that was a legal requirement. I don't want to get too much of the weeds, but that's how that stuff happens, right? So what happens when cheating and being abusive becomes that thing? And again, there's a word for it, and it's driving me nuts that I can't remember the actual word for it, but there's a word for this deal that you get. And when you do this, and Arturo, your 2 messages got redacted somehow. And again, it's not us. We're not doing that. That's just the YouTube's automated system. And we can't turn that off. So you just rephrase what you were trying to say and resend it, because it got redacted. So when you have that thing going on, what happens when you're like, man, I really want to go online. I want to play some League of Legends and I want to crap people out. Well, go down to the local whatever, log in with all their fake stuff, and go yell at a bunch of kids for 3 hours until the account gets banned, and then you walk away from it and you never caught up with it. It doesn't catch up with you. What happens when that becomes the problem? No, it's not corrupt. It's an actual term. So it's an actual term. It's buying. It's like right there on the tip of my tongue. But yeah,
I was about to say like pay to win.
No, no, it's an old term. It's been around for thousands of years. They used to do it with the pagan rituals used to have this, and it got incorporated throughout the thousands of years. And it's like you go and you buy the right to be able to commit a crime, but not commit a crime so bad that you're limited by the crime that you can commit by asking the local lord regent or whoever's running your place whether or not it's okay to do so.
Funky in the chat says, Saib, you're describing today's justice system.
Well, right? In a way we are. And again, that's a big problem. And it's like this stuff has to be constantly like looked at. And this is what I fear we're moving in the direction if this becomes a particular thing. So it's like, so to answer the original question, no, absolutely not. Phil, get your head out of your butt. Stop saying this. We do not want a corporate ban anything.
You don't want a worldwide. You don't want some worldwide ban list like that. That would just be a disaster.
I don't want anybody to be bullied. I really don't. Being bullied is not a fun thing. I've been on the receiving end of it a lot. I've given it out more often accidentally without realizing it. I've done that, especially when I was like a kid, because again, you learn and you grow. And as a kid, I didn't realize, especially with autism, I didn't realize that some of the ways that I said and did things were incredibly rude, because nobody was like, yeah, this is really rude. To me, it just made logical sense. I wasn't being a dick. I was just like doing what I thought was made the most sense, and it logically fit in my head. But then when it was explained to me, I was like, oh dear. And I felt really bad about it. I still feel bad about some of the things I did when I was 8. It's like I have that long of a memory, and it really bothers me, as it does to a lot of people, Chenibio syndrome and whatnot. So it's like, yeah, it's like we don't like doing those things, but you also don't want to have this like arbitrary, like, you have sinned against the great cosmos. Why? Because you crossed the road when you weren't supposed to. You are now hereby, sentenced to exile on the island of Lost Man. It's like, yeah, we don't want to go through with that. We don't want to do that. That leads to a nightmare dystopia that is going to be like insane. Ugh.
Yeah,
Makes a good premise for a book. All of the people commit minor infractions and all get exiled to this one place where society has to restart from the Stone Age, and then
sounds like a party.
1,000 years later they come to North. They come to some great city. It's this automated city that hasn't had anybody living in it for thousands of years, because everybody got evicted because they all committed.
Everyone, the great AI evicted everybody.
Yeah, great AI
you
evicted
jaywalked,
everybody.
you're out of here. And yeah, again, that whole is the importance of a path to redemption. Is critical. I mean, it's as flawed as it is. That is what any it's what. Again, we were just kind of crapping on the justice system. And of course, there are problems. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, it's a big pillar of modern free society, is the idea of innocence until proven guilty. And you investigate the crime. You don't investigate the person. You don't just go to you don't walk into the FBI and say, I want you to investigate my political opponent. Well, what do they do? Nothing. Go find something. I'm sure they did something. Go find it for me. Here's $100 under the table. Like, we call that corruption for a reason, because of its ability to be misused. And so, yeah, there would be no checks and balances on the power of this list or the people running it. Like, the whole idea is just really scary. So, all right, couple other.
Oh, I found out what the word was. It's called indulgences.
I thought you meant indulgent, because indulgences has another meaning too.
It's the there are other synonyms.
Synonyms.
There are other definitions of that word, but that's the one that most people would. They also used to be called satiations, and then some other stuff. But that was the basic thing I was going for.
All right, well, we're moving on from that now.
Oh.
So the Cuphead Show. So we're not going to talk for a long time about this, but of course we heard about this a few years ago, and Netflix finally dropped one trailer and 2 teasers, which is basically one long trailer and 2 short trailers for the Cuphead Show on Netflix, which you can check out those trailers right now. I'm sure they're everywhere, even if you don't have Netflix. Based, of course, on the Smash hit game that came out a few years ago, the fighting game that was done
the bane to journalists everywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, I loved the game. I loved the theme of it. I loved the style, and that they hand animated everything in the style of the sort of golden age of animation. It was incredible. It was an incredibly well-made game, very deserving of the accolades it got, and it was a lot of fun too. I mean, it was fun. So that's of course the most important thing. But then the stylistic choices for it. It would have been really sad if they put all of that work into it and it had just not been a fun game. But anyway, the Cuphead Show coming to Netflix. So yet another series based on a video game, but of course this one's going to be a very different type of thing. It's a silly animated cartoon, and you definitely, watching the trailers as I did last night, I definitely got it just had the vibe of old Disney or Looney Tunes cartoons. And it looks like it's going to be, it's got some wacky characters. It's got some kooky stuff. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not expecting it to, it's not going to be like groundbreaking, thought-provoking entertainment by any stretch, but it should be a silly, fun ride. You know what I mean? It should just be.
So is the liquid in their heads their brain, or?
I've thought way too much about this. I don't know. What happens if someone drinks from those straws? That's a very good question. Or is there liquid in there? I mean, none of this makes sense. You've got, the main characters are these two guys with cups for heads. Their like dad or caretaker or whoever is like a tea kettle. And then there's all these wacky characters. You've got anthropomorphic vegetables. You've got a flower, which you see in the bottom left corner there. You've got frogs, and then ghosts, and all just a train that morphs into weird stuff. Like there's just no consistency to it whatsoever. So it should be.
From what I see, the liquid in their heads defies gravity. So maybe there's like some kind of like barrier. I don't know. It's so weird.
But they're obviously Mickey Mouse in another dimension too. I mean, you just look at the body. Just add some suspenders on that, and you've got.
Yeah,
Mickey.
I do wonder how they got off with drawing like that so close to.
Well, obviously they're cups, not mice.
Yeah, it's different enough. It's different enough, right? Like there's definitely some homage there too.
My absolute favorite moment in cartoons was the Aladdin cartoon. So the TV show, not the movie. I
remember
TV
those.
Show. And the genie came up to this like ancient like entrance to some like thing. And he's like, the ancient Egyptians used to, or the ancient, it wasn't Egyptians, it was, well, maybe it wasn't. It was just kind of this ancient obelisk thing. And there was a handprint, and you had to like put your hand in the handprint. And he puts his hand in the handprint, but he's only got the 3 fingers, like they always draw the cartoons. And it doesn't meet with the 5-person hand. So the genie pulls his hand back, and he's like looking at it. He's like, oh, yes. And he magics himself a 4th digit, and he puts the hand there, and it fits the handprint. And it was at that moment that I realized, because again, I saw this when I was really young. It all hit me all at the same time. It's like, oh my goodness, all the cartoons only have 3 fingers.
Yeah, because it's easier to animate, easier to draw.
Yeah, because it's so difficult to draw a 5-finger hand.
5 fingers is really difficult.
It's super difficult.
Weirdly difficult.
And it's so cool that came out that way, and you're like, oh, that's so interesting. So yeah, this.
Wait, but are you talking about Disney's Aladdin?
Yeah, the Disney's Aladdin, the cartoon series, not the
movie. Okay, I thought that I've never noticed the 3-finger hands thing in like Disney movies.
Just Genie.
Well, it was just Genie. Yeah, it was just Genie there.
Yeah, Aladdin and Jasmine have regular hands, but Genie has the 3 fingers.
Okay.
He had the cartoon hand. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I do remember there being Funky. There was it's like from a long time ago, but there was like a cartoon series of not with the.
It was like one of my after school shows. It was great.
It wasn't Robin Williams. Of course, they didn't even get Robin Williams for the second Aladdin movie.
Mm-hmm. No,
but he came back for the third one.
Because so in the it's because Robin Williams was very angry with Disney because he wanted them to make the marketing to keep the marketing like centered around all of the actors involved in the show, because he didn't want to steal the spotlight, and he made that like he like demanded that as part of his contract. And then they made it all about him, and they told one of his coworkers that, well, that's just the way Robin wants it.
What?
And they got insulted, and they went to Robin, and they're like, why did you usurp the spotlight? And he's like, And he got really upset, and that's why he refused to come back for the second one. But he came back after the third one because the fans wanted him so badly. But again, that's just that in a nutshell. Now, before we go into the NFTs, I gotta say that did you know that if you got an NFT if you bought an NFT of the original like Mickey Mouse, that you now, by the rules of the NFT universe, you now own all of Disney because you bought an NFT of the Disney character. Therefore, it means vis-a-vis, vice versa, vis-a-me, that you, by the laws of the internet that you mostly just made up on your own, you now own the entirety of the DC, the Marvel universe. Because yes, that is what NFTs do. Just like those people who are claiming ownership of Dune.
So what was this? What happened? They bought an NFT of what exactly?
They bought
a digital
an NFT
copy of Dune.
They bought an NFT digital copy of a Dune script
For the movie?
written by the guy who worked on the movie thing and the book stuff, and are now claiming that because they own that digitally, they can now create Dune movies and TV shows based off of the book that they bought a copy of.
So they bought a cop. See, and this is what I've been talking about this for weeks now on my solo show, and I'll just bring it up here. You're not actually buying anything. This is the problem with this, and it's clearly people are confused about this.
Now it gets worse. Yesterday I watched a video. There is a new NFT movement where they're selling plots on an island. It's called Cryptoland. And Cryptoland is going to be this magical place where you can go and you can live on an island that's got all of the luxury, everything that you could possibly want. And there are people that are just going to be there to serve you. You're going to fly in on this luxury 20-person helicopter that's only only transports like 5 people at a time. That's how luxurious this is that you not only get your seat, but that you get the 2 seats next to you in every direction, because that's just the beauty of this Cryptoland that's mostly funded by NFTs. And you get there and you get to this island has a max occupancy of 100 resident houses, and you get one of those 100 resident houses. So they're selling this idea to millions of people online, and yet they want you to believe that you're going to show up. How much money are you going to put into this? Doesn't matter. You just put in some money, $200, $800, $1,000, $10,000, $1 million. It doesn't matter. You just throw in that money, throw in as much as you can afford, and you will be given this amazing house on this island with all the wealth and pleasures that you want, because you bought in.
So, question about this. So, I saw a little bit about this, and
It sounds like a religion.
This is a real island?
So the island they're claiming that they're going to build this on is a real island.
So it's not a virtual island. Okay.
The island that they're claiming, what they're saying is that when you buy, you can buy an actual plot on this land. The problem is they don't actually own the land. They don't own the island. They don't own any of the marketing for the marketing tools that they've used.
Are there people on the island right now?
I don't know so much about the island. All I know is that they don't actually own the island. What they want to do is they want you to invest, because once they hit this 50 million credit level, then they can buy the island, and then they can start building your exclusive house on the island. But there, of course, the 50 million is just to buy the island, and then they're going to need you to, everybody's going to have to put in more money,
right,
so that they
'cause
become
that's
more
not
valuable.
This isn't a scam. No,
This isn't a pyramid scheme at all. No, you just have to go out there and recruit 20 people who also go out and recruit 20 people who also go out and recruit 20 people. It's marketing, man. It's not a pyramid scheme. I mean, yes, when you draw it on it's like that scene from The Office where Michael sketches. So it's not Michael. It's who sketches the actual pyramid. So,
I'm pretty sure it was Michael and Pam trying to tell Pam or something like that.
Yeah, he was trying to tell Pam, but then Pam's husband was like, it's like he starts drawing it out, and as he's drawing it out, he just kind of draws this pyramid thing, and Michael's just like, I need to call some people. It's like this is what's going on,
and the video they put out, it looks like some very bad satire parody Pixar video.
Yeah. They went with the lowest bidder on that one for sure.
And it's not. It's like now they're refusing to pay people who've done them work for this, because of course that's what you have to do. And again, it's all about this like you take how to build a cult 101, how to build a cult with loyalty and all this stuff like programmed into the people, and you design it off of a pyramid scheme. If I were to create a lesson book and a class that features this stuff, they would have hit every single point on that. It's like, first of all, your marketing's got to target the average guy who is unimportant, has no skills, doesn't know how to function at a high level, and then you need to promise them the world, like everything. They're going to get everything that they've ever wanted. Everything. It's the
dream of It's the classic what used to be called a get rich quick scheme. When I was a young adult, it was these pyramid schemes. I mean, they've been around for a long time, but this whole idea that you get rich by with very little work. So you maybe you work hard for 5 years and then you just retire for the rest of your life. If you just find the right scheme to get yourself involved in, and we had a friend who was thing after thing after thing he'd get into like this, and then I've had old friends call me up and be like, try to get me involved in these things, and it's like, dude, can't you see this doesn't work? They're like, well, I just want to help people be financially free. I'm like, okay. It
hurts.
Stop reading to me from your BS script here.
Your handbook.
There aren't enough people in the world to for this to work out mathematically.
You get a call to go out for coffee because, oh wow, it's been so long since we hung out or talked even.
Oh man.
And then they're like, by the way, meet my mentor. This has happened to me more than once, and I get very upset at those people because how dare you?
Well, I haven't had the ones where they have you meet the mentor, but I had the one guy, an old friend. Yeah, that sounds like a massive piss off. But I did have an old friend call me up, and we went out for coffee and talked about stuff just to catch up. And then like a few days later, he called me and was like, I was just thinking while we were out randomly the other day, you were mentioning this and this, and I've got this thing I'm involved with, and I'm like, oh, I see. It was just that this is what it was about, was it?
Right? Like, you're just leading up to this.
You were just trying to rope me into this. That's the whole reason you wanted to catch up. Anyway, we're getting a little off track here. But yeah, like this is the new version of that.
No, it's not
like
not off
instead
track.
of marrying the Nigerian royalty, you become the Nigerian royalty.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. This is the new version of that side, right? Like it's
no. This and again, it's like there is a concept of NFTs out there that works. There is a concept out there, just as there's a concept out there that of cryptocurrencies that work. Bitcoin works. Ethereum works. Pretty well.
But you might as well.
Other coins work. What doesn't work are these scam things. It's like, so there's that one British YouTuber. He invested 2,000 or was it 10,000 it was $2,000 or $10,000 into like as many Bitcoins as he could. He just bought like a small amount of them. And then he just kept track of it, and he just showed how much those coins were making. And like 3% of them were making money, everything else was losing money. And so yeah, is Bitcoin a scam? Well, 3% of the time, no, it's not. Like when there was, is Bitcoin itself a scam? No, because it's at the point now where it's not. Well, I mean, it was never really because of the way that they set it up. It's actually has a limited quantity. Things like Dogecoin, I believe it's Dogecoin, don't quote me on that. I'm just going off of what I think. Dogecoin and some of the other coins that are out there. There's a handful of other coins that are out there. And they, not a handful, like a lot of them. A lot of these other coins, you can print an infinite number of them. So somebody can be holding on to 12 trillion and they've cornered the market and they bought 12 trillion of the coins and they're like, I have made it. I am forever going to be at the top of the hill. And then their person who's printing the Bitcoins announces that they've printed another 100 trillion coins. What does that do? That devalues the guy with the 12 trillion coins. Like, does blockchain work? Yes, blockchain works. Can you use it for bad things? Yes, you can use it for bad things. Is medicine a bad thing? No. When it's snake oil and somebody's promising that it'll cure cancer and put hair back on your head and do all these other things, then yes, it's a bad thing. You know, because it's not medicine. You know, are there you know, I don't want to get into that kind of stuff, but it's like yes, there's good things about crypto coins, crypto coins, NFTs, blockchain technology. Yes, there's lots of good things about all of those things. But the NFTs that we're seeing that are making up these scams are scams because there's no limit on the only person who's making money is the person who's selling it to everybody else. Mm-hmm. That's the only person who's really making money. And then
but you've got situations like this where it's an obvious scam, but then you've got situations like what some other companies in the gaming industry are getting into where, I mean, might not be right to call it a scam, but it's definitely just kind of a cash grab situation where they want to inflate the value of some digital asset, say some cosmetic you can get in a Ubisoft game by attaching it to an NFT and saying, okay, this somehow makes it unique, even though it's exactly the same as that other helmet, but it has a different number on it. And you're not, you know.
I just figured out how to protect the consumers and how to allow NFTs and blockchain stuff into circulation. I just figured it out. This just hit me like a lightning rod. So these companies want to introduce NFTs, right? They want to introduce skins and other stuff like that, and they want to have these token thingies. Now I know this kind of goes across against the whole non-refundable, but I think that if a company is going to say, "Hey, we're going to start offering these NFTs that you can buy," that the company who's selling them has to guarantee that they will buy back any NFT that is sold to them, or sold by them. They will have to buy those back at 150% the cost that they sold it to somebody else, sold it originally as. So that way, they're not going to print an unending number of them because they would only be printing themselves debt. Instead, what they would do is they would literally only create 1,000 of one thing, and then they would sell that 1,000 of one thing that would actually be scarce to the point where it would drive the cost of them up to at least 2 times the original amount. And then the just like actual collector's items, it would actually have a collector item worth of something because the company would do its darndest to make sure that those things never fall below a value, because then all those, they would have to buy them back. So if your NFT crashes and you've got 10,000 CSGO skins, you can go to the company and say, yeah, look, I'm selling you back my 10,000 NFT or my 10,000 tokens. So you now owe me like, $20 million, because I bought them at 10 million. So now you owe me this much back. It's like, that would be a way that you could fix this. You would force the companies to maintain scarcity on these items, permanent scarcity, because if they didn't, at some point they would have to buy them all back for more than it costs them to sell them. So that would,
of course,
that could
you'd
work.
have people gaming that. Like, you'd have people just buying it and selling it right back for a nice 50%
No.
profit.
Well, no, because you'd have to sell them at a point. Now there'd be a point where like you couldn't just return them. It'd be like, in like 1 month time or 2 months time or 3 months time or something like that. You'd be forced to buy them back at that point. I think that's the only way to make this thing work.
Well, in any case, they're not going to do that.
Yeah, no, they're not going to do that because they don't have trust in this stuff. If they're offering to sell you something that they know that, so it's not a consumable item, right? Like it doesn't like, it's not like a hamburger. 5 minutes after you buy the hamburger, it's in your stomach, or 20 minutes if you're a slow eater. If it's as soon as it's gone, it's consumed, then it's not, like movie tickets. Movie tickets are only valuable when the movie is like new, and then they become less valuable over time until, unless you can sell that copy again. It's like, that's how that kind of stuff works. But if they're forced to guarantee worth on some level or another, then, I mean, it would behoove them to not sell that and to constantly like keep that open. Anyways, I got to take a quick break. So.
Right.
Either way, also kind of sounds like there are people who are capitalizing on people's ignorance of what NFTs actually are. Because, like, not everybody keeps on this sort of thing. It feels like it's kind of like a buzzword at this point, especially for, like, the people that this crypto land seems to be targeting at, right?
Yeah, I think that's a big problem. I think
because like it almost sounds like another like kind of Bitcoin or whatever kind of word almost, because it's like Bitcoin, Dogecoin, NFT, not that far of a leap. It sounds like a weird
so it's built on the same technology, but it's a very different thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is, so they confuse an NFT, the non-fungible token, with something that has inherent value. And I mean, a Bitcoin doesn't have inherent value either. All of these things just have assigned value. I mean, there's an agreed value of what these are worth, right? Like a stock, or even like paper money, anything else, a diamond.
Mm-hmm.
It only has the value that we assign to it. It only has the value to the point that people want that thing.
Mm-hmm. It needs to have certain limits.
Right. Now, Bitcoins can be used like money, so they have value in that sense. It's a store of value, so we don't have to, I mean, the whole reason money was invented was so we don't have to haul 12 chickens and 4 pigs down to the market to buy a loaf of bread. Right. So, but NFTs, they don't have any inherent value. The value is in the connection of that thing to some other thing. But I think people are really misunderstanding that, what that means. Like, you buy an NFT of this script, like the first copy of this script that the guy written, they buy the NFT and then they think they own the intellectual property.
It's like, that's not how that works, guys.
Yeah.
Like, the NFT is what sets that specific file, like, specially by itself. It doesn't reach out to the broader brand in that sort of sense, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that's why I brought this up when Ubisoft was starting to talk about this stuff. It's like, well, that helmet that you buy, that cosmetic that you buy as an NFT. What the hell's going on over there?
Sorry.
That cosmetic that you buy for, for this one game, it's only valuable in that game. Unless they implement some kind of a system in which you can transport that to another game, so you can wear your military helmet in Assassin's Creed, which would be kind of silly. But I mean, really, it's only valuable in that game. As soon as nobody's playing that game anymore, it has no worth anymore, and your investment on that NFT is just gone. There's nothing you can do. There's absolutely nothing you can do unless you can sell it back to the company at as SIBE proposed there, unless you're guaranteed to sell back to the company at 150% of what you bought it for, or even 100% of what you bought it for, which is never going to happen. They're never going to do that because they know. They know. Mm-hmm. But IX had an interesting idea. What if we used NFTs as proof of game ownership or game license ownership? Something useful like that. So let's say I lose my Steam library, but I've got an NFT that proves I own Skyrim. I can go, I can go to Bethesda and be like, hey, I own this game. Can I please have a copy? I lost my other copy because of, whatever, forgot my Steam password or someone hacked it and whatever, but, it seems like this could be used potentially, just spitballing here, but it could be used for useful things.
Yeah, that could be a practical application of it.
But what's the point of, and again, like to buy a place here's the other thing. You don't need NFTs or blockchain technology to do any of the things that I have seen people using NFTs for. With the exception of maybe with digital art and, digital assets and stuff like that, proof of ownership, maybe, maybe the NFT is the best option there. But as far as cosmetics in games or even unique cosmetics in a video game, you don't need the blockchain for that. You don't need a token on the blockchain assigned to it to prove ownership.
Yeah, especially if there's so many multiple copies of something that looks pretty much exactly the same. Like Funky in the chat says, I assign no value to a helmet in COD.
Right. But yeah, even as Funky points out here that, NFT as proof of ownership is not needed. Look at Steam or your Xbox account or Nintendo account. Right. But I'm just saying, if we wanted some external validation of, I own this game, or say I want to go from Steam to GOG, or, I don't know. I've obviously, this is some fictional scenario that I'm just spitballing here, but, maybe there might be practical use for NFTs. That's what I'm saying. I haven't been shown one yet where it's this shows me why an NFT is needed as opposed to some other system that already exists. So that's my thoughts on that. Don't know if Saib's back yet, but we do have to wrap up here. We've been going for 90 minutes, and those kids aren't going to pick themselves up from school. So, unfortunately, we have to wrap it up here. It's been a very interesting conversation today, and I thank you, everybody, so much for sticking with us. Thank you for being with us on our return episode of the Augmented Reality Podcast. Please do slam that like button. It likes it rough, but if you want to tap it gently, it appreciates that too. It really does appreciate that. And if you hated the show today, make sure you hit the double dislike button, which is the one where the thumb is pointing up. That's the double dislike button to really show us you don't like us. And obviously subscribe over here and on the Triple S League channel, as well as checking out our Discord server. Great community happening there where we can keep these conversations going if you're interested in it. Lots of people willing to talk about lots of stuff over there. And really appreciate all of you who have joined. Join up, say hi to us in the welcome channel. Thank you, everybody, saying they really enjoyed the show today in the live chat. Thank you. We really appreciate that. We're glad to be back with this. Thanks for bearing with us as we kind of dealt with some logistical things and some other deadlines that we had to hit with other projects. But it's really fun to be back doing this show, having a conversation with Saib and Moon again. So I'm looking forward to doing this weekly and hopefully continue doing it live. Again, work schedules, because we don't do this full time, unfortunately. Not yet. Hopefully someday. But we do have our day jobs too. So hopefully there won't be too much complication. We'll be able to keep a consistent schedule for a while yet. That's my hope. But we like to just be open with you about what's going on with us. So hope you appreciate that as well. And thank you to our Big Damn Heroes and our channel members, our Patreon supporters and all those folks who contribute to us financially in that way. Really appreciate you and feel undeserving most of the time. Well, all of the time of your support, but really appreciate all of you. You've seen their names glittering in gold at the top of the screen throughout the podcast today. So appreciate those folks very much. And with that, we'll just wrap it up here. So thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you again very soon.